Part 1. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 1. Lugger has been a little troubled lately. Business is not good for various reasons, and even if there is no income for several months, the rent is still booming and the growth is gratifying. Not to mention, his girlfriend who had been with him for more than a year, somehow she was not compatible with him during the date. She actually asked him that question, that classic brain-twitching choice: if she and her mother fell into the river at the same time, he would go first. Who to save? But please spare me. Lugger almost couldn't hold his nerve. He thought to himself, what age are we in now? Why are you still asking this? Relying on the good water quality of the whole family, someone immediately pouted his mouth and replied proudly, save you. Save you first, save you only. While talking, he also put on a pose that he thought was chic, waiting for all kinds of coy benefits after his girlfriend was satisfied. Searched Can on Google. However, to his surprise, instead of giving him any benefits after being satisfied, his face darkened and he turned around and left. She gave him a beautiful but decisive look from behind, and at the same time, the words "let's break up" came from the other side. What the hell? Luja's mind was full of questions, and he said to himself that although his girlfriend likes to have a little temper on weekdays, and the princess is sick to some extent, she is not so inexplicable. Wait, what did she ask? She and her mother fell into the river at the same time. Ouch, this guy doesn't play according to common sense. It turns out that what she asked about was not his mother but her mother. After reacting, Lugger hurriedly chased the figure from behind, shouting as he chased, I was wrong, I will save your mother first. Save your mother. Save your mother. If you don't go home in the middle of the night, why are you making noise on the street? A rough yell came from upstairs. This matter might have been salvageable. If you avoid the minefield of not paying attention to the questions and having a problem with your attitude and pinching your nose and admitting that you are deaf and brainless, you will probably be able to deal with it. But the nature of the sentence "save your mother" directly turned into disrespect for elders and personal attack, making it difficult not to break up. Annoying. In love? What's the point? Isn't the game great? Someone who has nothing to do immediately rushes into the electronic world to relieve the frustration of the third dimension. For a time, various biohazards, road to survival, dying light, radiation, wasteland, etc. were all messed up. Don't ask why they are all apocalyptic games. This is called games that follow your mood. However, after playing with this and that, he was never satisfied. Either I think game A is missing monster B, or game C is missing weapon D. I don't believe it. There's no such thing as a game mod, that's available on such a huge internet. Needless to say, someone used all kinds of methods to actually find such a thing, an infinite apocalypse mod that claims to contain all apocalyptic elements on the market. However, as soon as he installed it and before he tried the game, his computer screen suddenly flashed with white light, swallowing Lugger directly. When he woke up and turned around, he was thrown into the ruins of a city where the smell of scorched earth filled the air. Look at the misty sky, the messy abandoned city, the dirty streets, and the crowds of zombies. Looking at himself with empty hands again, Lugger couldn't help but scream, the end of the world? Time travel? No. Are you trying to kill me? I'm so humming annoyed. At this moment, he regretted as much as he wanted. As for those game mods, the ones with the most downloads are obviously those gentlemen, those who have love with various young ladies. If he wants to download that kind of thing, even if he travels through time, his opponents should be the young ladies from Huanfei Yanxiao. They are probably having a good time now, right? But now, the sea of zombies opposite is so huge, but he has nothing in his hands, not even a toothpick. What should he do? Just when his brain was in chaos, there was a ding-dong sound in his mind, and an electronic sound that could not distinguish between male and female sounded. Welcome to the Infinite Apocalypse system. It has been detected that the host has extremely low combat effectiveness and lacks the ability to protect itself according to the relevant terms. The host will be provided with a lottery for the protagonist's ability template. What the hell? Damn, that mod is actually a system? Lugger finally understood how he was thrown into the sea of zombies. It seems that he has been underestimated. Why is his combat effectiveness so low? If you have the guts, let's give it a try. What? Are you offering a lottery because your combat power is low? Well, that's okay. System, do you think my combat effectiveness is so low? How about giving me a few more draws? However, before the system could speak, the next moment a lottery will commonly seen in variety shows appeared in his mind. As soon as it appeared, it whirled around. Various rewards are written in the dozens of sectors that the disc is divided into. Lugger looked carefully and saw that those awards were indeed members of the protagonist groups he was familiar with from each game. They all came from the games installed on his computer. This made him overjoyed. Although he only plays apocalyptic games recently, that doesn't mean that he only has apocalyptic games on his computer. If you draw an ancient sword like the immortal sword Xian sword, tisk tisk, use the flying sword to use the sword technique to kill zombies, that feeling. Even if you draw a root-grabbing treasure, Dragonborn, Western fantasy high-growth templates such as Nephilim are also good. No matter how bad it is, being a demon hunter with superb swordsmanship or a sergeant in power armor is enough for him to run rampant in the end of the world. Seeing the turntable spinning slower and slower, Lugger became more and more excited. Good guy, I was just thinking about a high-powered protagonist, but what if I get a weak chicken? The turntable is still trying its best to move forward. Hiss, the Dragonborn was just moved over? It's okay, there's still a chance, there's Tians, Wanhua, and it's over again. No way. There are several more badass protagonists in those unlucky romance games. The most outstanding ability of those guys is nothing more than all kinds of unreasonable skills to hook up with young ladies. For example, Sophia's treasure, and so on. What's the use of putting that thing here with Ruger? Could it be that he was asked to learn the dragon riding poet in D&D, no, the dragon riding poet, no, the bard? The monsters here are zombies. Just when Ruger's sanity value dropped wildly because of some indescribable scenes in his mind, the pointer actually jumped again. It finally pointed to. What is this? Looking at the final result that was highlighted by the system with golden light, Ruger really didn't know how to react for a while. The only thing he was thankful for was that he didn't have to be ridden by a monster. Originally, he should have been happy that he had avoided a big pit, but this template, how should I put it, I don't know if it is weak or strong. If he is weak, this guy can do anything, and he has killed hundreds of thousands of people. But if he is strong, he is often killed inexplicably when he just walks around the street. This is the protagonist of the Car Thief OL. He drives a sports car, a tank, an airplane, and a submarine, forms a gang, runs a company, opens a nightclub, and breaks into a casino, and burns, kills, robs, and does all kinds of evil. Ahem, barely a thief has his own code of conduct. Having drawn such a template, Ruger can only say to himself that although it is not as good as those powerful templates, it is at least not useless. Just as he was calming down, another white light flashed. When he regained his vision, he immediately found that he was wearing a heavy bulletproof combat suit, as well as tactical eye protection and noise-canceling headphones. It was exactly the equipment in his game account. The difference is that in the game, these are just decorations, but now, he can clearly feel that they are real. In other words, this set of armor and equipment can bring him real protection and support. So, the next step is weapons. Weapons, where are the guns? Where are the weapons on the protagonist, from pistols and submachine guns to rifles, snipers, light machine guns, Gatling guns, and RPGs? Why only armor but no weapons? Wait, what is this? After checking his whole body, Ruger pulled out a cold and hard thing from his waist. At first glance. Wrench, 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 wrench. What's the use of this? It's not as good as the physics holy sword, at least it's long. What's going on? Didn't you draw the OL protagonist? Where is the gun? He hurried back to check the system, and couldn't help but gasp. It turns out that he didn't draw the protagonist's combat template, but his logistics module, including spaces with various logistical facilities functions in online games, such as offices, bunkers, airports, facilities, etc., as well as mechanic templates that master various skills from making and modifying guns to modifying cars and tanks and even airplanes and fighters. Logistical space and mechanic template, is it the protagonist template that I drew? Go. It sounds awesome, but there is not a single one that can fight. It's great to be able to fly a plane and repair a tank. What should I do now? What should I do with the zombie sea on the other side? Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 2. Just as Ruger was wavering, it seemed that because the lottery session was over, the system's protection mechanism had been cancelled. The zombies that were still wandering aimlessly before suddenly seemed to smell his scent and rushed towards him. After calling the system a few times, he realized that the guy was pretending to be a mute more than he was. Luger couldn't help but tighten the wrench in his hand. MD, death is still inevitable. Forget it, let's fight. If you fight one, you will earn enough, if you fight two, you will earn one. Hate raised the wrench, and Luge stepped forward and rushed out, heading towards the zombies. He ran out in the opposite direction. Do you think I'm stupid? Fighting with them? Why? Those are zombies. Let alone 2, even 20, or 200, they are not qualified to compare with my life. What he said was true, but the question was, in the ruins of a city flooded by a sea of zombies, how long could he hide even if he ran? Now, he is like the last rock on the sea when the tide rises. There will always be a moment when he is swallowed by the sea of zombies. However, the next second, while avoiding the wave of zombies, he picked up the wrench and swung it to the side. Crash, the side window of an old muscle car on the roadside shattered. He reached in smoothly, found the door lock in 2 or 3 strokes, opened the car, and got in quickly. Not to mention that, he swung the wrench again and hit the bottom of the steering wheel twice, breaking open the protective layer. I grabbed 2 handfuls of wires from inside, separated them, and then performed the classic wiring and ignition scene in the movie. This vulgar plot should not have worked in reality, but after 2 or 3 times, the car actually caught fire. Hey, the owner of the first-generation Dodge Challenger in 1970 was really not willing to retrofit it with a modern anti-theft system. Someone is very proud of his ability to turn waste into treasure by learning and applying it flexibly. From selecting this car as the target among countless cars on the street, to smashing the lathe, opening the door, wiring, and ignition, it was all done in one go. His entire set of actions can be regarded as bringing the capabilities of the logistics module, which has little direct combat effectiveness, to a certain level. You are indeed qualified to be proud. However, this is just the beginning. The engine was already started. He sat upright and put the gear into gear, stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and immediately ejected the muscle car. In Ruger's opinion, the original owner of the car was probably a knowledgeable person who maintained the car quite well. Although it is an old car, the engine is powerful. After all, it is a 2L displacement V8 engine with more than 400 horsepower. The military Hummer M998 reconnaissance type only costs more than 200 horsepower, and 100 horsepower is more than enough for ordinary urban family cars. After only a few seconds of acceleration, the needle on his speedometer rushed to a value of 60 plus. That's miles per hour, which is equivalent to 100 kilometers per hour in the international system of units. At such a high speed and with a body weight of just over a ton, the car directly hit several zombies that came to block the road. Seeing the flesh and blood flying outside the front windshield, Lugger was not only vomiting a little, but also more excited and proud. To have this effect, of course, it must be said that the engine of this car is too abnormal. This kind of thing could really only be done in the brief years before the beautiful country encountered the oil crisis in the 1960s and 1970s. But none of this would have happened if Ruger hadn't used his knowledge and had an idea to select this monster among the cars. Logistics template has no combat effectiveness. That's in someone else's hands. In my hands, it is still strong. Isn't it just the sea of zombies that flooded the city? See how I drive a car like a boat, ride the wind and waves, and rush out of the waves. Needless to say, after breaking through the first zombie blockade, he actually enjoyed a relatively relaxing time. However, as the zombies on the road became more and more crowded, his previously complacent expression finally became anxious again. There is no other way to rely on the kinetic energy of the vehicle to knock out the zombies blocking the road. You must first increase the speed to a certain level. Very simple high school physics, kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mass times velocity squared. High speed can lead to high kinetic energy, and high kinetic energy can knock zombies away. However, as the sea of zombies hit the front of his car one after another like a tidal wave, he couldn't speed up. At this point, I have to praise the perversion of the big engine. If it were an ordinary family car, it would have been turned off long ago if it was photographed like this by the zombie wave. Now it can barely squeeze forward in the tide at a speed of 30 or 40 kilometers, which is already considered powerful. If that's all, Lugger only needs to find a way to find the weakest point of the zombie wave and rush forward. There will always be a time to get out. But the problem is that there is a big hole in his car, which is the window glass he smashed when he got in the car. He can get in through the broken car window, and so can the zombies. Seeing a zombie finally hanging near the car window after many twists and turns, and stretching out its claws to grab him, Lugger defended himself and couldn't help but curse inwardly. What is this? Punishment for stealing someone else's car? Please, it's the end of the world, human life is important, it's important to escape. The car owner might have turned into a zombie, so please obey the authority in emergencies, okay? There is also an emergency escape clause in the law. Seeing that the zombie next to the side window was getting more and more accustomed to the twisted posture, and the claws grabbing at him were becoming more and more threatening, Lugger had no choice but to protect the vital parts of his face with his elbows while turning the steering wheel fiercely, trying to get it or him. Throw or push down. With his other hand, he reached for the passenger seat, where there was the wrench he threw when he got into the car. At this time, some weapons are good. However, after searching for a long time, he still couldn't find the metal wrench. He took a quick look and saw that the seat was completely empty. Where was the wrench? In a hurry, he didn't have time to think about it. Based on the habit of the car owner, he hurriedly reached for the passenger compartment. Even he, a car owner born in the safest country in the world, couldn't help but put some window breakers in the glove box. He didn't believe that the owner who likes to drive muscle cars and has a road style would not put self-defense weapons in the glove box. He opened the glove box in a hurry and really touched a piece of iron. He took it out and was about to smash it on the zombie's face. He glanced at it and was shocked. Well, what kind of iron lump is this? It's clearly a pistol. Time was running out, and he didn't have time to think about it. After confirming that the gun was loaded and the safety was off, he quickly placed the gun on his left arm and pulled the trigger at the zombie. Save your mother, save your mother. To be honest, his alternative shout was initially just an emotional vent, but when he really shouted it out, he realized that he had unexpectedly done the right thing. The gunshot was too loud, and it still hurt his head after being reduced by the noise-canceling headset, but it was this shout that saved him. The numbness and pain in the gunman's hand caused by the strong recoil were not so unbearable. He soon received the reward for enduring the pain of close-range shooting in this strange way. This was almost like shooting right next to the zombie's face. Although the posture was not right and the accuracy was not high, there was almost no need to worry about missing the target. After a few shots, although the zombie was not hit in the vitals and was killed instantly, it was still beaten to a state of weakness in its hands and feet. Ruger didn't want to be pretentious. He couldn't blow its head even if he got close to it. He quickly seized the opportunity to swerve the steering wheel. The car body immediately swayed violently, and he crashed out of the weak part of the zombie tide, and also threw the zombie away. Ha ha ha, eat my exhaust gas. He rushed out of the zombie encirclement, driving the car. As long as he didn't actively crash into the thick tide, his safety would be temporarily worry-free. So when he found that there was a muddy and gravel road leading to the wild hillside ahead with significantly fewer zombies, he immediately turned around. Ha, there are many zombies in the city with many people, and few zombies in the suburbs with few people. It's the same everywhere. Yes, as soon as he stepped onto the slightly bumpy road, he felt that the pressure of the zombie tide in front of him was relieved. The resistance of the zombie sea decreased, and his car speed, which could not go up, immediately soared. This further promoted the ebb tide of the zombie sea. While taking a long breath, Ruger finally had the mood and time to fiddle with the previous hero. The pistol that had just been put on the passenger seat. However, after searching for it twice, the nightmare repeated itself, and the thing disappeared again. What happened? Ruger hurriedly searched everywhere. In the end, except for a few more magazines in the storage box, there was no trace of the pistol. Strange. Did it just fly out? While wondering, he glanced at the passenger seat again unwillingly, but it was still empty. Huh? No, where is the magazine just now? I clearly put it on the passenger seat. The first time may be a mistake, the second time may be a coincidence, but the third time? There is definitely something wrong. However, before he could continue to explore, the road in front of the road covered by trees suddenly opened up, and a cliff appeared. He suddenly found that he was running on a muddy and stone road leading to the cliff. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-chi-ji. Chapter 3. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ruger couldn't believe his eyes. Google search reading. There was a road just now, why did it suddenly turn into a cliff? While shouting accusations, he immediately slammed on the brakes. However, it is not just the problem of excessive fuel consumption that makes a generation of big-name muscle cars famous. If you want to stop such a big car in time when it is traveling at high speed, the pressure on the braking system must be very high. To put it simply, the vehicle speed, including acceleration, is too fast to brake. In just a few seconds, even though he stamped hard with his right foot and almost touched the bottom of the car, he and the car eventually flew off the edge of the cliff. FXXK. 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 The series of bad things he encountered today were very annoying, but he felt that the last thing was the most unfair. Well, that's normal. After all, this last thing will probably be the last thing in his life, if nothing else happens. But, nothing unexpected? How is it possible? Bullshit. I've worked so hard to get here, how could I die like this? It is said that before death, people can easily develop abilities that are far beyond ordinary. In the flash of lightning, an idea flashed in Lugger's mind, and he couldn't help but touch something by his side with his right hand. His sad and angry face was immediately overjoyed. Humph! Prank on me? Come on then. As he spoke, he immediately opened the car door and jumped out of the car on his hands and knees. After leaving the car, his hand immediately returned to something on his waist, preparing for the next step of his plan. However, he unexpectedly discovered that the bottom of the cliff was actually far away from the valley floor. Looking around again, even the mountains were gone. Not to mention the previous cities, hillsides, etc., even the muscle car he just left disappeared without a trace. At that moment, he really thought that the previous series of encounters were just a dream. But the next moment he quickly woke up. No, not a dream. He himself had no experience of free falling in the sky, so it was impossible for him to simulate such a realistic cold wind in his dream. He opened his mouth and tried to shout a few words, but sure enough, he could only whimper and swallow a mouthful of cold air. This experience is absolutely real. What's going on? No, never mind. What if the scene changes again, and the ground that is still thousands of meters away suddenly changes to be in front of you? Thinking of this, he didn't care about anything else. He quickly touched the handle at his waist and pulled it out suddenly. At the same time, a small umbrella was immediately released from above the backpack he was carrying outside his battlesuit. Under the flow of air, the small umbrella was quickly opened, and the large umbrella below was also opened smoothly by the rope. This is actually a parachute bag? Well, it's not that abrupt. He was wearing a full set of Los Santos Little Mute heavy combat uniform. How could he be missing the parachute that is essential in Los Santos? He felt as if he was being picked up by the giant behind him at a very high speed. At that moment, Lugger seemed to have stopped breathing. Fortunately, a moment later, as the main parachute was fully deployed and the surrounding wind pressure decreased, he came back to life. Ha, 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 so this is what skydiving feels like? It's really good. In less than an hour, someone jumped sideways several times on the verge of life and death, which was somewhat irritating. He was really trying his best to control his laughter to this level. If he had allowed the excessive secretion of extremely high concentrations of adrenaline to stimulate his body, I'm afraid he would still be laughing now. It's still like the clown in a certain comic, aha, aha, aha ha ha. The reason why he was able to control himself was not only his own perseverance, but also because he was afraid. He was afraid that another gust of wind would blow randomly and blow him and his umbrella to a certain sea. He can see it now. What kind of survival in an abandoned city in a zombie apocalypse is this? It's probably because the system is deliberately playing tricks on him. Sure enough, it didn't take long before the system, which had always been acting dumb, finally dinged. Congratulations to the host, for passing the initial combat power evaluation. Immediately afterwards, the system panel where the lottery wheel appeared in his mind again. This time, on the panel was a series of scenes recorded from a third-party perspective, showing Lugger struggling to survive. While the picture is playing, the electronic sound of the system also sounds simultaneously. Combat ability, Novice Standard Average. The scene on the screen at this time is Lugger shooting the zombies at the side door with a pistol. Although the hit rate was not low, it was a pity that none of the hits hit the vital points, and the zombies were only injured but not dead. Then the camera angle was raised, and it was a muscle car surrounded by a sea of zombies, struggling under the control of Ruger. At the same time, fighting will, good. Hey, is this talking about my indomitable fighting spirit? Someone felt quite proud at this time. As he spoke, the scene flowed again, but this time it was not just one set of scenes, but several sets. There is his initial choice of car, leveraging the car to drive, and his rummaging for weapons and controlling the car's deflection when he is threatened by zombies on the side window. In the end, the scene freezes on the scene when he jumped out of the car and opened his parachute when he fell into the cliff. Combat wisdom, excellent. Overall rating, good. Congratulations again to the host for passing the initial evaluation. In view of the flexibility and proficiency shown by the host in applying the initial template, special rewards are as follows. 1. The host is permanently bound to the mechanic template set. 2. Skip the early and midterm running in stages, and the initial level of the host mechanics skills will be master level. 3. Unlock the first set of additional facilities in the logistics space. The reward has been distributed, please check it yourself. What? Looking at the string of information that popped up from the system, Lugger felt as if he had won a super jackpot. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. For example, why, after passing the evaluation, the mechanic template is permanently bound? Then if you fail, why bother asking? Good guy, straight up good guy. Ruger thought to himself that the system, which cherishes words like gold, does not use words like obliterate on its lips. But this made him feel even more shuddering. Being so frightened by the system, no matter what questions he had, he was somewhat afraid to ask them again. Sushi understood his psychology, and the next moment the white light reappeared, completely surrounding him. In just an instant, the coldness brought by the high-altitude cold air was replaced by warmth. But not long after, as the warmth receded, Lugger felt that the surroundings were getting cold again. But this time the cold was completely different from that in the high altitude. It was more of a damp and cold combination. As the warmth faded, the white light dimmed simultaneously. His feet also fell back to the ground. His vision returned to normal, and while feeling the solid feeling of stepping on the ground, he blinked and looked around. The umbrella bag behind him has disappeared, and the surrounding environment has changed from a tropical and subtropical city to a temperate broadleaf forest. In other words, the edge of a temperate broadleaf forest. Here, compared to the chaotic streets of the dilapidated city before, it looks much greener. However, the feeling he felt here was still that of an extremely cold and dead silence. Obviously, it is still the end of the world here, and it is still so eerie and empty. It seemed as if the surrounding woods and even the grass were full of deadly beasts that could jump out at any time. A cold wind blew by, but the temperature was only 10 degrees Celsius, but it made him shiver subconsciously. Where is this? What do I want to do? Lugger just complained casually uncomfortably, but unexpectedly the system electronic sound suddenly sounded again. Live. Hiss. He is even colder. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 4. Lying down on a high-end leather boss chair, Ruger sipped a can of coffee on the left and bit a piece of roast beef on the right. His life was extremely comfortable. Google search reading. Ah, this is more like it, this is called life. Wait, wasn't he just at the edge of the forest? What happened now? Was he dreaming because of a fever after being blown by the cold wind? Ha, he is not that miserable. This matter has to start from when he suddenly found out that he could operate the system panel in his mind. After finding out that he really had the right to operate, the first thing he did was to check the rewards he just received. And the third one is unlock the first set of additional facilities in the logistics space. So yes, he went in. Although he was very scared when he first entered this so-called logistics space through the system panel, he had rich experience in hanging out in Los Santos, and he immediately confirmed that this place was exactly the same as the bunker. In the game, this bunker is an underground arsenal that the intelligence organization IAA had to give up on the surface. But in fact, it is just for players to contract and continue to work for them as offline. However, because of this, the equipment here can be said to be quite complete. Not only is there a full set of light weapons production lines, but also a set of external container-type heavy trucks, like Optimus Prime. It is called the Mobile Operations Center. There are not only a full set of armed vehicle modification equipment, but also a full set of firearms modification tools. Outside the container, there is another set of large equipment tools for modifying large vehicles. With these equipment, Ruger can modify anything from a small pistol to a heavy truck with a full load of 20 tons. These are just the main functions. As for other small functions, we will talk about them when they are used. Compared with the game, this logistics space has everything except that it is temporarily unable to hire employees to operate the arsenal. Well, there is one thing missing, that is, the truck head of the Mobile Operations Center container. The only motor vehicle in the bunker is a 1970 first-generation Dodge Challenger muscle car. That's right, it was the car that Ruger had driven before and disappeared in mid-air when he jumped off the cliff. Only then did he realize that the things that disappeared were thrown back here by the system. Cars, magazines, pistols, wrenches, they are all there. This is really, I can't complain. There is not only a bunker in the logistics space, but also an office on the upper floor, which is also from the same game. But the office only has the main facilities, no garage or vehicle modification workshop. But it doesn't matter, the bunker has those functions. Compared with the bunker, the office has few functions. The most important function is a lounge with free food and drinks. Well, maybe we should also add a set of very comfortable desks and chairs, which is the one Ruger is lying on. The canned coffee in his left hand came from the lounge. But the Texas-style roast beef in his right hand is not free, but bought with the system points. In addition to free bagged food with an almost unlimited shelf life, there are also stores selling better quality food in the office. Or food vending machines. Roast beef comes from it. In addition to selling food, there are vending machines that sell medicine, guns, ammunition, and even vehicles. Food and medicine vending machines are all in the office facilities, while weapons and vehicles are in the bunker. In this way, Ruger finally figured out what the first set of additional facility functions are. Obviously, this logistics space was originally just an office, which could only provide food, water, and treatment medicines. Simply put, it is to barely maintain the basic survival of the host. The bunker with functions from gun production to modification to vehicle modification is his reward. It is also the key artifact of his mechanic template. However, there is a big problem next, that is, using this artifact costs money. That is, the so-called points. And the price is not low, especially compared with the goods that maintain basic survival. Like the roast beef before, 2 points can be exchanged for more than 20 kilograms, and the unfinished ones can be stored in the refrigerator. The magic healing needle in the drug vending machine, which is said to be able to revive the dead, is only 10 points per shot. But the things in the bunker are so expensive. Well, maybe the basic guns are okay, such as the PT-92 in Ruger's hand, the 3-magazine version, which is only 2 points. But the prices of other guns have risen sharply. The price of AK assault rifles is higher than 10 points, and the new AR guns even exceed the 20-point mark. As for machine guns, sniper rifles, Vulcan cannons, RPGs, etc., the starting price is close to 50 points. Not to mention those heavy weapons that can be seen and touched. The price of an M1A2 Abrams main battle tank is as high as 45,000 points. But Ruger didn't give any points in the 3 rewards he received. Host's current remaining points, 106, minus 100, points. The so-called minus 100 points, according to the system, is the basic reserve for the operation of the logistics space. If his remaining points are less than 100, he will not only be unable to enter the logistics space, but also be unable to use any function. So in fact, his total points are only 6 points. What does this feel like? It's like a magic apprentice who is very talented and has mastered a lot of forbidden spells just after learning magic. But he didn't have enough magic power, so he couldn't use it even if he wanted to. Ruga, who had just been lying in the boss chair drinking coffee and eating beef, immediately changed color when he found out that he was actually very poor. He threw the half-eaten roast beef back into the paper lunchbox and put it in the refrigerator. System. Are you trying to trick me again? I'm actually very poor, couldn't you tell me before I bought the beef? However, the system ignored someone's accusation and continued to play the role of a dumb man. Realizing that he couldn't do anything about him, Ruger had to force himself to calm down. After analyzing the current situation, he found that he seemed to have only one way to go. Earn points. So the question is, how to earn points? Two methods. At this time, the system that had been pretending to be dumb actually spoke. 1. Kill monsters, such as zombies. 2. Complete the task. Tisk, 9 out of 10 games have similar settings, it's not new at all, someone reacted and said disdainfully. What about the mission? Give me a mission first. Ding dong, the host triggers the initial mission. Mission objective, explore the basic situation of the current area. Mission reward, 10-50 points. In short, after lying on the leather boss chair and eating more than a pound of roast beef and drinking 2 cans of coffee, someone's short enjoyment officially ended. He didn't want to sit back and eat until the last 6 points were used up and kicked out by the system. For him, it was far better to take the initiative. As soon as he came out, even if he was wearing a full set of heavy protective clothing, he still felt a chill immediately enveloped his whole body. Sure enough, the damp cold near this dark temperate broad-leaved forest was more creepy than the simple cold. Coupled with the dead silence around him, Ruger felt that this place was more uncomfortable than the abandoned city submerged by the sea of zombies. Of course, this was just a mental feeling. For him, who was reluctant to spend points to buy a good gun and ran out with only a pistol, there was nothing wrong with being a little lonely. In fact, he was betting that the system would not really arrange a death place for him. Well, it was a death place for him. There was no way, the man who escaped from the sea of zombies with a wrench was so confident. The confident man had just walked out and had not taken 2 steps when he vaguely heard a strange and familiar ghost howl coming from not far away. Ouch. No way. Still the same old routine. He took 2 more steps cautiously but not timidly, and looked forward. Well, there were indeed 2 figures that he was very familiar with, walking slowly beside the dilapidated wooden house not far away. That shriveled body, rotten skin, and rotten teeth, yes, that was Ruger's old acquaintance, the zombie. Ruger looked around and confirmed that there were no other zombies in sight, and he couldn't help but laugh sinisterly. Well, this is really a gentleman's revenge. 3 hours is not too late. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 5. You guys have no moral principles. You came together in the hundreds and thousands to bully an old man with weak legs and feet. How are you now? Are you alone? Humph, take my move. 5 lightning strikes. A certain drama queen said all his grievances as if he was making a manifesto before the battle. At the same time, he rushed forward 2 steps and stood still immediately after he felt that the distance was about right. Google search reading stood sideways with a gun in the standard Weaver-style posture, aimed at the 2 zombies, and fired 5 shots in a row. It was really a veritable 5 lightning strikes. It's just that the lightning didn't seem to be very bright, and 3 of the 5 got lost. Although the remaining 2 successfully arrived at the station, they only scratched the chest and abdomen of the first zombie twice. Okay, if it were a living person, being scratched twice like this would at least take away half of his life. But who let them be zombies? Besides, pistols are difficult to control. Without a buttstock, you can't put it against your shoulder, and the barrel is short. For someone like Ruger who has not practiced much, but can hit 2 out of 5 shots from a distance of 20 meters, He can brag about it for years in reality. But on the other hand, rather than saying that he has a good shooting talent, it is better to credit the mechanic template. Which gunsmith who can make and modify guns can't shoot, right? Although his 5 shots were actually aimed at the heads of zombies. Okay, this is actually even more unrealistic. As we all know, it is impossible to aim at a head target 20 meters away with a pistol's notch rear sight mechanical sight. The rear sight notch itself is about the size of a person's upper body, and the front sight can almost block a person's head. When shooting at a target, you can rely on memory to estimate the target position, but aiming at a moving target is another matter. But at this time, Ruger also found that unlike his agile fellows in the abandoned city, these two heads were very slow. The staggering look that might fall at any time made Ruger's mind full of another worry: should I help him? In short, for Ruger, who was reluctant to use real bullets to practice shooting in the logistics space bunker shooting range, the two zombies in front of him, which were slow to a certain extent, became his best novice targets. The 17-round magazine of PT-92 was also quite powerful. In the end, before the first magazine was completely empty, Ruger finally fired a bullet that penetrated the zombie's midbrain and brainstem. Kill the undead creature zombie and get 2 points. Ah! After getting the system's kill record, Ruger shouted happily. Not only because he finally blew off a zombie's head within 10 meters, but also because this zombie was worth 2 points. If he had been mostly focused on practicing shooting before, his attitude immediately changed after he found that this zombie was particularly valuable. His eyes immediately became, UN Omega UN. As a money grubber, he suppressed his instinct with amazing willpower, took out the magazine with 2 rounds left, and replaced it with a full one. Even as he knew that the probability of him killing the second zombie with 2 bullets was too low. Even if it was a bit of a waste of bullets, he still chose to shoot a few more bullets more safely. Bang 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 bang. Another lightning 5-shot combo. This time his target was no longer the 2 zombies 20 meters away, but the one that was close at hand, less than 5 meters away from him. To be honest, if there hadn't been the previous initial evaluation, he would have been paralyzed by such a disgusting thing as the head. But now, thanks to the training of the unscrupulous system, he has a big heart. This big heart allowed him to keep his hands steady even when he saw the maggots wriggling in the zombie's shrinking gums. So, another 5 shots and 2 hits. Don't get me wrong, this time all 5 shots hit the target, which is the zombie's head. The so-called 2 hits mean that these 2 shots accurately passed through the gap at the tip of its nose and directly shattered the brain stem at the back. The other 3 shots also caused damage, but each of these 2 shots was enough to kill. Kill the undead creature, zombie, get 1 point. Okay, so the zombie is worth 1 minus 2 points? This is much less than he thought. But it doesn't matter, a little bit makes a lot. The question is, where is the next zombie? I don't know if it was because of his good luck or the gunshot was too loud. He didn't walk far before he found that the bushes next to him were shaking. He just turned around to be on guard, and saw a silver light shot out from the bushes and hit him in the chest. Bang! Although his heavy combat suit successfully blocked the silver light, the huge kinetic energy on it still hurt his chest. And just when he recovered from the pain and prepared to fight back, the second silver light shot out from the bushes again. Fortunately, although this thing is fast, it is far slower than a bullet, and is about the same as an arrow. The first shot hit Ruger, because he was not prepared, and the second shot. Bang! Even though he reacted quickly and jumped to the side to avoid it, his body was not as fast as his consciousness, and the silver light still scratched his left arm. Oh my God! Ruger didn't care about any tactical plan at this time, raised his pistol and pointed it at the bushes, and then he fired a series of shots. This time, the guy inside not only didn't have the opportunity to shoot the third silver light, but turned around and jumped out of it, turning around to run away. When he saw that thing jumping out, Ruger couldn't help but exclaimed, "Oh my god! Porcupine! Zombie mutated porcupine!" That's right, the guy who just fired two arrow-like silver lights was actually a porcupine-like thing. The true identity of the arrow was clear, it was the barbs on the guy's body. But that thing seemed to be different from a regular porcupine. For example, it actually had two strong forelimbs that looked like human hands. But Ruger didn't investigate further. After all, the revenge for the injured arm must be avenged, not to mention that he still had more than half a magazine. In fact, although this zombie porcupine was smaller than a zombie, its defense and physical strength seemed to be much worse. Ruger initially fired aimlessly at the bushes, probably only hitting it twice, and it moved like a turtle. When it jumped out of cover, it gave Ruger a clearer shooting range, but he only shot it twice more, and then he killed the guy. Kill the demonized animal thorny rat, and get 2 points. Huh? Demonized animal? Isn't it a zombie porcupine? Ruger walked over curiously, wanting to see whether it was a porcupine or a rat. As soon as he touched the thorns on its body, he heard a ding-dong from the system. Recyclable raw materials detected. Do you want to recycle? What? Raw materials? Could it be the thorns on the porcupine or rat? Thinking of this, Ruger neatly selected yes on the panel question. The next moment, he saw a hazy white light emanating from his body, covering the porcupine. At the same time, the time of the corpse seemed to be suddenly accelerated, and it shrank rapidly and visibly. Not long after, it became a 1,000-year-old mummy, with only a thin layer of skin left. At this time, a breeze blew over, immediately turning it into smoke and dust, and it disappeared in the air in an instant, as if it had never appeared. Oh my god, what a domineering way of recycling! After sighing, Ruger immediately checked the system panel and soon found that there was already a part of the raw materials in the bunker. Although it was only marked as white ordinary quality, there were 2 units of raw materials, which seemed to be enough for him to make something. Hoo-hoo, as expected, if you want to make money by opening a bunker, you can't buy raw materials yourself, you have to rob. Now, someone's greed for money has become even worse. However, just as he was excitedly looking for his next target, the woods not far away also shook. He hurriedly used the same trick again, replaced the last full magazine of the pistol, and stood alert facing the bushes. Soon, a group of red-skinned guys half a person tall came out of the dark green jungle. Some of them held torches, some held shields, but their right hands, without exception, held a scimitar. This is. Looking at these familiar strange monsters, Ruger's brain was a little down for a while. But those red-skinned dwarfs didn't have the patience to wait for him, and shouted Lakanishu and rushed straight towards him. Demon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 6. In this unknown apocalyptic world, the first enemy that Ruger encountered was zombies. This is normal. In this day and age, which apocalyptic world doesn't have zombies? Even the nuclear explosion world like Fallout has zombies. Then, the thing that looked like a zombie porcupine, but was called a thorny mouse by the system, made him a little troubled. However, it was not difficult to accept the demonized creatures. At that time, Ruger just regarded this place as a relatively weird zombie apocalypse, such as the Resident Evil. However, when this team of red-skinned dwarfs shouting Lakanisha jumped out and rushed towards him, he was completely sick. These things are clearly the famous novice monsters in Diablo 2, the fallen demons. So, this is the world of Diablo 2? Is Diablo 2 also considered the apocalypse? Well, it seems that the human world called Sanctuary invaded by hell does seem to be a kind of apocalypse. Moreover, it seems that hell only wants to occupy and conquer this place, while the angels of heaven want to completely destroy it. Wow, it seems that this is not only the end of the world, but also the extremely dangerous one. Ruger still knows a little about European historical myths. He knows that in the so-called sacred book, the so-called evil and demons almost all originated from the good gods and patron saints of other races. He also knows that the so-called angel saints who represent goodness also have similar origins. But compared with the demons who resisted to death and were stigmatized, the angel saints surrendered and submitted. This is the version in the myth. There is only one China in the world, which has recorded the history of civilization as detailed as possible and left it to future generations. For those civilizations that have no history, the clues in the myths may be the only way for them to understand their past. In this history traced back by myths and legends, the civilization that believed in the so-called good gods, the predecessors of demons and demons, was probably completely destroyed. Maybe it was a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, maybe earlier or later. At least, the believers who could defend them no longer exist. The races and civilizations that believed in the predecessor gods of the angel saints were probably directly conquered and absorbed by monotheism. Monotheism left them some last dignity. So Luger did not find it abrupt that the angels wanted to destroy humans. What really made him feel numbed and frustrated was that his original plan was ruined. Don't forget that the initial template he drew was a mechanic, not a gunner, not a soldier king. He took out a small pistol to shoot zombies for reconnaissance and to trigger the mission to get the first pot of gold. Not for opening up wasteland. According to his plan, after getting the first pot of gold, he would start to modify the muscle car with a monster V8 engine. First, change it to the simple version of Mad Max, without window glass, and put a machine gun on the co-pilot. This version is enough for him to rush around in the sea of zombies and cut the sea of zombies like leeks. As for the final version, his mechanic template is the Los Santos mechanic. What is the ultimate version of Los Santos armed muscle car? Armed Tampa. It is the one with a remote-controlled weapon station on the top that can rotate 360 degrees and can be equipped with machine guns or even Gatling guns as weapons. It can launch micro-missiles in front of the car, and there is a door in the trunk that can launch mortars backwards. This thing, except for its thin skin, is as powerful as ordinary armored transport vehicles, and can even compete with infantry fighting vehicles. But now, all this has to be shelved. It is one thing to deal with zombies with no intelligence and limited abilities in the wasteland. But it is another thing to deal with angels and demons who have high intelligence and high power. Ruger didn't want to spend hundreds or thousands of points to modify an armed Tampa. And just show off for a few times, and then be blown away by Diablo's claws, or be burned by the fire of hell and the ammunition on the car exploded. Thinking of this, Ruger felt confused and his mind was full of lawsuits. When he was brought back to his senses by another shout of Lakanishu, the fastest red-skinned dwarf was only a few meters away from him. Wow! You dare to take advantage of me in the chaos? I'll save your mother! Save your mother! Shouting an inexplicable catchphrase, Ruger aimed his pistol at the guy and fired a few shots. People say that good shooting skills are fed by bullets, and this is true. After just shooting 2 zombies, Ruger's control over the pistol immediately reached a higher level. 5 bullets immediately knocked the guy to the ground. The guy's falling action was so professional, just like a drama actor. It was still charging the previous second, and after being hit by the bullet, it immediately stretched out its tongue and twisted its neck, tilted its head and fell to the ground and died. If Ruger hadn't received the kill record and got a pitiful 1 point, he would probably think it was acting. 5 bullets to kill a fallen demon, it seems pretty good. But there were 5 of them jumping out of the woods. That meant he needed to kill 4 more to survive this crisis. But he still had 13 bullets in his magazine and chamber. What? Didn't the magazine only have 17 rounds? That's right. but he changed the ammunition before the last magazine was empty, so there was one more round left in the chamber. 17 add 1 minus 5, it's still a math problem. With 13 bullets, if he only wanted to kill 3, he wouldn't have no confidence to try. But as for the 4 heads. Fortunately, when the first sinking demon fell to the ground, these cowardly little dwarfs actually showed the characteristics in the game. That was the other fallen demons near the red-skinned one who was close to death. They turned around and ran away. This gave Lugger a huge advantage. When he saw this, he advanced instead of retreating, and actually only rushed towards the second sinking demon. As he rushed, he fired continuously at the guy's back. Although his aim dropped even more sharply while running, with the distance advantage, he still killed the 6th bullet when he fired it. Buzz. The sinking demon, who had calmed down a bit and was about to turn back to attack, fled again. Lugger repeated his old trick and chased one of the 2 relatively close ones among the 3. This time I was a little unlucky, and I actually emptied the magazine before getting it back. Sure enough, the efficiency of firing a gun close to the face while in motion is still not as good as shooting from a standing position. At this point, all 3 of Ruger's magazines were used up. But it didn't matter, he actually still had 4 bullets in his second magazine. Using the logistics space to access items quickly, Lugger shook his hand slightly and changed the magazine. It's like magic. At this time, the sinking demon following the 3rd dead man was still running away, but the last one on the other side had regained its fighting spirit and rushed towards him. Lugger did not run again this time, but stood still and aimed at the last end in a standard posture. When it rushed into a distance of 3 meters, he suddenly pulled the trigger. Bang! 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 2 of the shots successfully hit the guy's chest and abdomen, causing him to stagger and stop his forward movement. Taking advantage of this gap, Lugger aimed his last shot directly at its head. The 8-gram all-metal armored bullet immediately shattered its skull. As the red and white flower bloomed, Lugger's Mozambique shooting method successfully allowed him to defeat the enemy with only 3 shots. There is only the last one left of the sinking demon. There was only the last bullet left. After glancing sideways at the kill record and confirming that he had obtained the 4th point, Lugger immediately turned around to be on guard. Just a few seconds of running around, listening and shooting accurately took a lot of energy from him, and his hands holding the gun seemed to be trembling slightly. When the second red dwarf flower bloomed, the last fallen demon was too far away from it and was not affected by its death. At this time, the guy had regained his fighting spirit, holding up the torch and scimitar in his hand, and rushed towards Lugger eagerly. 6 meters, 5 meters, 4 meters. Although he had been aiming at its head, Lugger still didn't shoot. 3 meters, 2 meters 5. From this distance, he could even clearly see dozens of large and small gaps on the blade of the old scimitar. 2 meters. The scimitar in the sinking demon's hand has been raised high, as if he takes just 2 more steps, he can send this knife into Lugger's face. Soon after, Lugger, who had been aiming at its head, slightly lowered the muzzle of his gun and suddenly pulled the trigger. 2 shots, bang bang, penetrated its belly. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 7. The guy was hit hard and his movements paused. But seeing that the enemy was only 1 meter away from him, he could kill him even if he threw the scimitar in his hand. The fallen demon seemed to have suddenly overcome his racial defects and continued to rush towards Ruger like a berserker. However, the next moment, it found that the human was not retreating but advancing, and actually rushed towards it. It stretched out its hand and pushed it away with force, and pushed away its right hand holding the knife, which had weakened due to the injury. And with his other hand, he held the weird thing against his head. It was so hot. This was the last thought of the fallen demon in the world. It was the muzzle burn caused by overheating after continuous shooting. The next moment, a bullet penetrated its skull, causing it to bloom. The last fallen demon, dead. Wait. Didn't he only have one bullet left? Where did he get two more bullets, and even played a John Wick-style close-range Mozambique with physical skills? That's right, his magazine, which only had 4 bullets left, only had 1 bullet left after firing 3 more. But he had completely emptied the previous magazine, and when he replaced it with a 4-round magazine and released the empty chamber, it automatically loaded a bullet. After firing 3 rounds, the last bullet in the magazine was automatically loaded, and the magazine was actually empty. And his original magazine still had 2 bullets left. The slightly trembling gunman was actually performing another magic trick using the spatial characteristics. 2.5 magazines, about 50 bullets, killed 2 zombies, a spiny rat and 5 fallen demons. Added together, it just earned 10 points. This series of laborious and stressful high-burst battles consumed a lot of Ruger's energy. After all, his real physical strength is just that of an ordinary person. Fortunately, the system seemed to recognize his performance. In addition to the points, it also showed him a reward. After actual combat training, the host mastered the skills by himself. Single-handed gun proficiency, 1 beginner. According to the system description, this means that unless he deliberately shoots at the 10M humanoid target, he will no longer miss the target. Although it is not high, it is considered to be qualified to some extent. After the series of battles, Ruger also found that the mechanic template has many hidden functions. For example, the knowledge about shooting techniques. Mechanics are not necessarily masters of actual shooting, but a good gunsmith must be a theoretical master of shooting. Because only by knowing how gunmen use guns can gunsmiths tailor the most suitable guns for them. Ruger only needs to use the rich theoretical knowledge of the mechanic template and form muscle memory through training to improve himself. Of course, as long as he is not naturally untalented in the technique of shooting. Obviously, since the system has recognized his ability and allowed him to obtain that skill, it means that he has this talent. This is his biggest benefit. However, even so, Luger did not intend to continue. Instead, after sorting out, he temporarily returned to the logistics space. The dual consumption of physical strength and spirit could no longer be replenished in a short time by food and refreshing drinks. Moreover, judging from the forest that was shaking in an increasingly large area around him, it seemed that he had attracted many enemies again. Although his pistol skills were recognized, he really didn't want to use this thing, which was actually just a self-defense weapon, to hunt again. Especially after recovering the bodies of 5 fallen demons and their scimitars, shields and other equipment, his raw material tank increased again. These raw materials were enough for him to make a long gun for himself. A combat gun that did not need to make up for the lack of guns when facing 5 fallen demons again. Mossberg 590, a 1.20-inch barrel type, ghost ring peep sight. This was the long gun he spent several hours making for himself using the unreasonable parts manufacturing capabilities of the logistics space. It's not that he has any opinions about assault rifles, or that he feels that his shooting skills are not good enough for rifles. This is actually a comprehensive consideration of technical capabilities, environmental conditions, and costs. The enemy he faces is not a human with a gun, so the advantage of the assault rifle as the best close-range weapon cannot be brought into play. This is almost certainly a dark world with demon angels and superhumans, and the types of enemies must be complex. In this way, shotgun ammunition is easy to manufacture, and the advantages of special ammunition are more suitable for the current Ruger. In addition, the pump-action shotgun has a simple and strong structure and is easy to operate, which is indeed suitable for Ruger, who is still a novice. Of course, all its parts can be made with recycled raw materials, and no extra points are needed, which is also an important reason. Finally, the ghost ring peep sight is also a type of peep sight mechanical sight, with a simple structure and easy to make. Although its long-range precision aiming is worse than the notch rear sight, its close-range aiming speed and accuracy are quite good. This thing is often seen on tactical pump-action shotguns used by the military and police. Fed up with the notch rear sights being difficult to use when aiming quickly, and Ruger being stingy and not wanting to spend points on a red dot holographic sight, he naturally preferred a weapon that could maximize the strengths and weaknesses of the ghost ring sight. Well, okay, just admit it. The main reason he chose to build this Mossberg 590, a one-pump action shotgun, was to save points. From weapons to ammunition to sights, etc., saving money at all levels. For a poor rookie who still has only 16 points to spend, what's wrong with him being stingy? Well, now there are only 15 points left. Because he can make his own gun with recycled materials, but not ammunition. 1 point, plus his own materials, exchanged for a full 90 rounds of 3-inch 12 caliber 00 buckshot. Pump-action shotguns such as Mossberg 590 use a tubular magazine, which is the tube under the muzzle. So the longer the barrel version, the more ammunition the tubular magazine can hold. Ruger chose to make a 20-inch barrel, not only to make it more accurate at long distances, but also to make the magazine longer. This version of the magazine can hold 8 rounds of ammunition, plus 1 round in the chamber, so this gun is called. This is not Ruger fooling itself, the original factory has been giving itself GG like this for decades. But then again, Ruger is stingy, but he will spend the money he needs to spend. After all, it has been confirmed that he can get points by killing monsters, so his financial prospects are bright. In addition, the previous task objective, explore the basic situation of the current area, is also partially completed at this time. According to the system instructions, he can click the option to confirm the completion of the task at any time to get this part of the reward. 10 points. The original reward for this task is 10 to 50 points. Ruger thought about it and thought that this is probably because he encountered 3 kinds of enemies before, which were counted as intelligence by the system. That is, part of current area's situation. Then if he continues to explore and encounters other types of enemies, it is likely that the completion of this task will be higher. Then of course he will not choose to end this task now. But at the same time, he naturally counted the 10 points rewarded by this task into his assets. So, after the gun was made, he did not skimp on ammunition, but went to the bunker shooting range to practice shooting honestly. After dozens of rounds of ammunition, he even mastered two-handed gun mastery, one beginner. Only then did he stop practicing and went back to the office to have a comfortable sleep. After sharpening the spear and preparing the horse the next day, he picked up the new gun and left the logistics space, embarking on the journey again. At this time, he had clear goals, or two. The first was naturally to hunt monsters and earn points. The second was to collect as much information as possible in this world and try to get the upper limit of 50 points for the exploration mission. Hunting, start. Infinite Doomsday start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 8. Probably because the effects of yesterday's battle were still continuing, as soon as he came out, he saw a group of sinking demons wandering nearby. He can shoot 5 with a small pistol, and he is naturally not afraid of a shotgun at this time. Before those guys could react, he took 2 steps to rush forward, picked up the shotgun and aimed at the nearest one. The large target hole of the ghost ring rear sight will become translucent when aiming in real life, allowing Ruger to quickly align the front sight on the red dwarf, while keeping the top of the front sight exactly at the center of the circle of the large translucent target hole, completing the 3.1 line of aiming. Bang! The sound of a gunshot was far louder than the previous PT-92 pistol. In an instant, the 900 type steel pellets in the deer bullet were sprayed out of the barrel by the blast wave of the propellant, and directly broke through Red Dwarf's chest. The kinetic energy of each steel ball is over 200 joules, almost close to the warhead of a 9mm pistol bullet. One buckshot shot, but it was like 9mm handkerchief bullets hitting the sinking demon at the same time. Although its kinetic energy is far from being like in action movies, where the opponent can be sprayed away with one spray, it still killed the guy instantly. Another point earned. Woohoo, cool. Lugger roared excitedly, immediately pulled the handguard back to the end, and then moved back extremely quickly to complete loading. Before the other fallen demons could run away, he fired another deer bullet at the nearest one. This feeling is simply a replica of yesterday's 1-on-5 pistol. The only difference is that this time, he doesn't need to refill the second bullet at all. Every fallen demon is shot into the soul. The magazine with a capacity of only 8 rounds was quickly emptied by him. However, he was aware of it before he hit the air, and controlled the frequency of shooting in advance. If not necessary, load at least 2 rounds of ammunition before shooting. However, even so, his magazine was never full, and still floated back and forth between 0-4 rounds. Several times, because he was too late, he did not have time to press the shotgun into the tubular magazine from the loading port under the gun body. I had to pull back the handguard to open the gun chamber, and press the ammunition directly through the ejection window on the right side to complete the loading. The reason is that there are too many fallen demons nearby. A conservative estimate is that he has killed 30 or 40 of them, but looking up, there are still dozens of red half-human figures wandering around. What are you doing? The sunken demon is also holding a temple fair. Or are we going to have a picnic together? What he said was not entirely nonsense. Those red-skinned children were really gathering in a certain direction. If he hadn't suddenly appeared to take action, the initial group of so-called patrolling fallen demons would have probably been heading there as well. At this time, you can see how bold someone is after getting a new gun. He clearly found those red-skinned dwarfs gathering, but he actually loaded the gun and fired at the same time. They squeezed towards the direction where the sinking demons were the densest. But before he had even taken a few steps, he heard a sudden scream from the dense depths of the fallen demons. If he hadn't heard that the person speaking that strange language was a young woman, he would have even suspected that the fallen demon had become a spirit. But, what is she talking about? Don't go there. Danger. Or hurry up and save her. Well, it seems that no matter which one it is, as a gentleman, he has only one option. Rush over as fast as you can to save the lady in danger. He, who was so confident when he had a big gun, did just that. However, before they were halfway through the rush, the female voice over there sounded again. This time, the warning in the voice could be easily heard even by Ruger, who did not speak the same language. What's going on? Ruger said in his heart. It seemed like that person really didn't want to let him go. Why? Ding dong. It is detected that the host does not master the language, and a quick proficiency package for the corresponding language is generated, priced at 5 points. Does the host purchase it? 5 points? It's really not a small amount of money. However, someone who had just made a few dozen points quickly chose yes. Then, he felt an inexplicable dizziness hit his brain. It was like a decoration team buzzing inside for a while, and then the feeling subsided again. It seemed like several years had passed in an instant, but when Lugger woke up, he realized that not even a second had passed. But this time, when the female voice in the center of the fallen demon sounded again, he not only understood the sentence, but even understood the previous one. Who is where? Don't come here. It's dangerous here. Hey, why are you still running here? Stop it. Damn it. Why don't you leave? I'm Tia, and I'm doing a skill experiment. Don't go any further. The unfamiliar language that he didn't understand at all was now clearly understood by Lugger, which made him sigh at the ease of use of the system. If only there had been such a language proficiency package when I took the Set -4 and Set -6 exams. Although he was thinking about some things in his mind, Lugger was not completely crazy. He immediately took a few steps back and shouted to the front, "Got it?" It was that strange language that was used. As if she heard his reply, the girl over there stopped shouting anxiously. After a pause for a few seconds, the girl yelled, "Super flame explosion!" In an instant, Lugger saw several large iron pineapple-like things suddenly rising into the air. Then he fell into the group of fallen demons evenly and rhythmically, like a goddess scattering flowers. Boom hoo! Those big pineapples exploded almost simultaneously, instantly igniting the large area between Ruger and the girl. Dozens of fallen demons were immediately engulfed by the sea of fire. They struggled and shouted one or two syllables, and didn't even shout out a complete sentence of Lakanishu. All those fallen demons died in the hell of fire. They really went back to where they came from. Good man, these big pineapples are basically a bunch of big bombs, or even incendiary bombs. Although in the eyes of Ruger, who has a mechanic template, this method of rapid combustion and high-temperature flames is a bit too wasteful. But at least, it is really useful. Not to mention that the dozens of fallen demons in the middle were destroyed, those around them that were not engulfed by the sea of fire also immediately scattered when they saw this situation. They fled so quickly, as if they were afraid that if they were a little slower, they would also be engulfed by the sea of fire. In this way, when the fire receded and there was no obstacle blocking his sight, Ruger finally saw the appearance of the man who threw the bomb. Wow! Seeing that person, Ruger couldn't help but admire him, and he wanted to turn into a werewolf and roar to the sky. That person was indeed a beautiful young woman with long legs. The girl had short brown hair with a slightly dark red color, and she was tall and agile, just like a standard sports beauty. The black training suit with white embellishments outlined a more impactful curve. How to say this properly? Well, it seems that the 3-inch 6-point DA bomb is not only the big pineapple she threw. Even though Ruger has been tested by the Red Skull for a long time, he couldn't help but want to shout. Sure enough, the pineapple in the big pineapple world is really big. Seeing that his pineapple incendiary bomb easily solved a group of fallen demons, the girl also jumped and cheered. Aha! I succeeded! My improved version of the flame explosion finally succeeded. The flame explosion seems to be her kind of big pineapple incendiary bomb. Ruger thought to himself. Well, whether that kind of bomb is considered successful or not, he can't say. After all, there is no previous reference. But the girl's other bomb activity almost succeeded in blowing someone's nose into a bloody mess. The man was about to kneel down and beg for mercy and sing "Conquer." However, before he fell, the cheering girl jumped twice but suddenly lost her strength and stumbled to the grass. Ah, this, Ruger had a question mark on his face. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-chi-ji. Chapter 9. The vigorous and violent girl was cheering a second ago while launching a mental attack on Lugger. The next second, he fell to the ground so cleanly. If it weren't for her extremely effective cushioning, Lugger would have been afraid that her pretty face would get a nosebleed. He quickly ran over to check her injuries. After a moment, Lugger confirmed that she was basically fine. At this moment, a string of giliolo sounds from his belly that Lugger was quite familiar with sounded, almost making him think that he was hungry again. However, it was not him, but the semi-conscious girl lying on the ground, actually chewing the grass near her mouth. While chewing grass, the girl murmured in confusion. Well, the improvement was successful, we can finally go there to find fresh seeds. Well, the food grown from fresh seeds is so delicious. Woo, that's great, I don't have to be hungry at last. Woo. Seeing the unconscious girl nibbling on the turf and shedding tears of joy, Lugger was suddenly moved to tears. Is this the basic state of the post-apocalyptic world, which is short of food and clothing? Even a being like Bomb Girl, whose combat power is obviously not low, can't have enough to eat in the apocalypse. From this point of view, Lugger suddenly felt that the system was good for him. Even if there are no bunker blocks sent for the initial combat power assessment, even if there are only office blocks in the logistic space. The free food and food vending machines in the break room also directly solve the most serious food and water shortage problem in the apocalypse. Thinking this, looking at the Bomb Girl chewing weeds with relish, Lugger shook his head and quickly waved his hand. 10 seconds later, he used the microwave in the break room to defrost and heat the roast beef in the refrigerator, then put it in a paper box and took it out. After confirming that the meat was moderately hot and cold and not too hot to the mouth, he hurriedly handed the carton with the meat to the girl's mouth. The girl on the ground wrinkled her pretty little nose, as if she smelled the aroma of meat, and finally stopped harming the turf. The next moment, she just turned her head slightly and took a bite of the beef that Lugger cut into small pieces specially for her. After chewing it for a few times, Lugger felt that the corners of the girl's eyes became more sparkling. Wow, what is this? Why, how can it be so delicious? Could this be the taste of fresh seeds? Fresh seeds? This was the second time Lugger heard the girl say this word. It seemed that she was looking for this thing, so she gathered this group of fallen demons to experiment on her big bomb. Although he always felt that this word from the girl's mouth was a bit strange, Lugger was still excited. Because, this will most likely trigger a quest for him. However, right now, the girl is still recharging her hump, and Lugger thinks it's best to wait for her to wake up naturally. Thinking of this, he immediately turned around, raised his shotgun and pointed it at a sinking demon that ran over again, and fired 9 steel balls. Bang! Kill the demon, the sinking demon, and gain 1 point. The fallen demons that had been scared away by Bomb Girl Big Pineapple began to return one after another, and seemed to have brought back a lot of reinforcements. However, under the full firepower of the Ruger, these guys turned into points for him in minutes. This in turn stimulated him to work harder at harvesting. At the same time, his marksmanship was also improving rapidly, and he soon became hand-handed weapon proficiency, 5 elementary. After reaching elementary level 5, his efficiency increased again. In order to kill the enemy with one shot as much as possible before, he always put the red dwarfs within 15 meters or even 12 meters before shooting. After trying several shots, he can now guarantee that he can crush the chests of those guys with one shot from about 20 meters away. Coupled with the sinking demon's characteristic of escaping when its companions die, Lugger's back was simply guarded by him as a monster-restricted area. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer enemies in sight, Lugger felt a pleasant coolness rising from his chest and abdomen, straight to his forehead. That kind of comfort made Lugger, who had been flustered by the recent worries, feel refreshed. Life, it's better to be clearer. While he was enjoying the refreshing fresh air with emotion, he heard a slightly shy female voice coming from behind. Well, hello. Is this your meat? After hearing this, Luodu turned around and saw that the Bomb Girl had woken up and stood up. At this time, she was holding the paper plate coyly and looking at herself sheepishly. Ha, that's a nice expression. Luodu admired in his heart, very satisfied with the vigorous girl's slightly shy performance. Because in the apocalyptic world, having this kind of performance means that she is a person who knows how to repay kindness. As for whether she was performing, Lugger looked at her beautiful and clear eyes and immediately voted no. Yes, it's the beef I put in it. He then smiled and said, how about it? It tastes much better than weeds, right? When he smiled and joked, the girl's cheeks became visibly redder. But at the same time, her expression also softened a lot from the previous anxiety. Apparently, Ruger's kind smile, relaxed tone, and fairly standard local language relieved her nervousness. The next moment, Lugger, who casually dealt with the last fallen demon in the shooting world, took 2 steps forward and approached the girl. He subconsciously looked at the food box next to the girl, but saw that not only the beef was in it, even the meat dregs and gravy had been eaten up. "Have you finished eating? How long have you been hungry?" someone couldn't help but said in surprise. The girl's face turned even redder, and she was frantically apologizing while trying to find something to pay for the meal. Ruger, who had come to his senses, cursed himself for being too outspoken and hurriedly grabbed the girl's hand. The next second, after getting the lunch box back, he shook it twice, and it was filled with cut beef again. "Haha, just kidding," he pretended to be relaxed. "Don't worry, I have plenty of beef here, I guarantee you can eat as much as you want." To be honest, it's no wonder that he was too outspoken before he subconsciously exclaimed, "You know, people in the end times are big eaters, and the beef in the dinner plate is at least 4 or 5 pounds. As a rough man from Donkey Province who is more than 1.8 meters tall, Ruger can only eat less than 2 pounds in one meal. This is the bottom line for him, not to be so full that it affects his normal life. But who would have thought that a girl who is only about 1.7 meters tall, although tall, can actually eat 4 or 5 pounds while sleeping? So this time, he simply cut out 6 pounds. How can I be so embarrassed? The bomb girl stared at the food plate, swallowing her saliva constantly, and controlled her instinct to pounce with great willpower. Soon, she seemed to have thought of something, and looked up at Ruger and the shotgun on his back. Are you an adventurer using lost weapons? Are you running out of ammunition, or do you want to buy some special ammunition from me? However, my workshop has had some problems recently, and there are no raw materials. How about this? If you have raw materials, I will make a batch of ammunition for you for free, which will be considered as the money for this meat meal. How about it?" Looking at the girl's cheerful and generous face, Ruger's mind was full of question marks. What lost weapon? This gun? Your workshop? You can make bullets. Wait, there are raw materials here to make bullets. Hearing him throw out several questions in a row, the bomb girl was also confused. Huh? Haven't you heard of my name? Flame Alchemist, Tia Max. Aren't you an adventurer who came to me to make alchemical tools? You are not a local. Wow, you are not a local, but you have a lost weapon? Could it be that you are a lost person from outside? Lost person? Ruger touched the shotgun on his back and looked the girl up and down. Only then did he realize that there was a holster on the inside of the yellowed canvas bag she was carrying. There was a gun in the holster. A double-barreled, no, triple-barreled sawed-off barrel pistol grip shotgun. This bomb girl who calls herself a flame alchemist actually has a shotgun. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 10. 10 minutes later, we were on the second-floor mezzanine of a dilapidated wooden house far away from the edge of the forest. Tia, the bomb girl, sat on a thatched cushion and happily ate beef from a paper food box. Luger in front of her stared dumbly at the dazzling array of alchemy equipment in the not-so-large space. Here, there are not only classic medieval Renaissance alchemy equipment, but also modern firearms-related tools. Taiwan novel network rightward arrow. There are even a few pieces that are very similar to the tools used to modify guns in the Ruger bunker. So, Tia, you are an alchemist. Not only is he proficient in fields such as flame bombs, but he is also involved in the production and improvement of lost weapons. You even have a gun, lost weapon. Is that so? Ruger asked summarily, looking somewhat dazed. Well, that's about it. Tia took another piece of beef and continued to chew it happily. But lost one technology, including lost weapons, is itself a field of alchemy. It's normal for an alchemist like me, who specializes in the fire system, to also practice lost weapons that also use fire. Very normal? Luge thought to himself, this is obviously the world of Diablo, but a civilization of the lost suddenly appeared. Is this normal? Okay, before I wanted to use some special alchemy method to explain the origin of my firearms. As a result, he was overtaken by the local indigenous people. The reason why routines become routines is because they are easy to use. Lugger took a deep breath, controlled his emotions, recalled Taya's words, and repeated them hesitantly. You are actually people from another world. Decades ago, your world collapsed and shattered, and you followed a fragment of the world and fell here. It turns out that humans in this world have almost become extinct, leaving only more dilapidated buildings and ruins. So while you are excavating and utilizing those relics, you also call them the Lost Ones. And the hell demons that invaded you and destroyed your world also fell here with the fragments of your hometown. So you continue to fight against the old enemies in this new world until today. Is that so? Lugger woke up from the aftertaste and turned to look at Taya. Well, yes. Tia, who puffed out her cheeks, nodded quickly, as if to make up for the shortness of her sentence. Eat slowly and don't choke. Lugger quickly took out the can of coffee, pulled the tab, and handed it to the little girl. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to take out cans of coffee and the like. But now, hey, the world's routines are deeper than mine, so why bother to hide them? Well, thank you, Brother Lu, you are such a good person. I gave you food and drink, and you actually gave me a good guy card, right? Luge rolled his eyes at her angrily, but was quickly defeated by the innocent eyes she cast back. Eat, take your time, don't rush, I'll sort things out first. Huayao, okay. He said he was trying to figure things out, but actually he just wanted to ask the system. Ask him why this place is obviously a dark world, but it suddenly changes. However, compared with Lugger, this system is obviously a more qualified Los Santos little mute, that is, it does not say a word. But Ruger wasn't entirely without answers. For example, for that task, explore the basic situation of the current area, the completion rate has now increased a bit. The mission reward is 50 points. If he chooses to end the mission now, he can already get 20 points. Obviously, Tia's narrative about the Lost Ones was recognized by the system mission. Okay. Lugger calmed down and found that this routine was not so difficult to understand. What is this like? It's like making a Diablo mod for a game like Dying Light. Think about where your system came from. Is the so-called Infinite Apocalypse mod so abrupt? In Tia's words, this is normal. Oh, wait. Is this system called the Infinite Apocalypse? Could it be that the fragments of other worlds that smashed into this place were not just the Dark World? Haha. Is there any other world that is as unlucky and lucky as us? Unlucky enough that the world collapsed into pieces, but lucky enough that the pieces fell here, and you still survived. Hearing Lugger's question, Tia, who was chewing beef, almost burst out laughing. However, for some reason, Lugger always felt that while she was laughing, the corners of her eyes seemed to twitch vaguely a few times, as if she was remembering something. But since she didn't say anything, it was hard for Lugger to ask again. Anyway, that matter is not important yet, at least it is not important at all compared to getting more points by triggering the mission. If the task is triggered. By the way, Tia, you said that the powerful incendiary bombs you used before were specially improved. Say your experiment was successful. What are you going to do with them? Well, Lugger didn't lose his memory. He remembered what Tia wanted to do with them, to get the fresh seeds. But there's a problem here. Those words were Tia's words when she fainted from hunger. If Ruger mentioned them directly, it would obviously make Tia even more embarrassed. So he simply suppressed this part and redirected her to say it again. However, what he didn't know was that Tia was not completely ignorant of what happened when she fainted. So, after Tia was slightly stunned by his warm gesture, her favorability towards him rose sharply again. Soon, she told Ruger about the fresh seeds again. But just when Ruger was about to ask further, Tia suddenly frowned and looked out the window. Ruger looked over and saw a strange, dim but highly recognizable light flashing in the dark sky. Lightning? Fireworks? Flares? He was muttering here, while Tia on the opposite side had already put away the food box and prepared her equipment and stood up. Sorry, Brother Lou, I think I should go over and take a look. You can stay here as long as you want, as long as... Don't, Ruger immediately said, is that a flare sent by your friend? You need help, right? Count me in. He was worried about not having a mission, so how could he miss such a good opportunity? Ah, Tia was stunned when she heard the words, and was obviously a little entangled. But she opened her mouth several times without knowing what to say, and finally nodded and said, "Okay, follow me." After that, she stepped lightly, and with the help of the hidden bricks on the side wall, she jumped back to the ground in 2 or 3 steps, which was both relaxed and cool. As for Ruger, how should I put it, it's great to have a healing potion without worrying about breaking a leg from falling from a height. While he was walking a few steps to check the effect, Tia quickly and lightly spread some potions around the wooden house. After finishing, she immediately ran in the direction of the flash before. Soon, Ruger, who barely kept up with her, also asked about the true identity of the potion, the exorcism potion. An alchemical potion that can make monsters subconsciously not run over to make trouble. Tia also has a magic attracting potion with the opposite effect. Needless to say, that is most likely the culprit that made the fallen demons gather together for the market. Okay, alchemists, even if they specialize in fire, can also know other potion formulas, which is normal. Just like the wooden houses in the magic world that are infected by magic, they can also be like reinforced concrete structures. After being dilapidated for decades, the main structure can still remain intact. It's normal. Well, just like a Nephilim can easily perform a light skill that can at least fly on the grass, even if it doesn't leave any traces on the snow. It's normal.